Hello world, Dev here. Today we're taking one last look at the HP Omen 15 gaming laptop that I recently reviewed on the channel, which has been doing amazingly well. By the way, my top viewed video in terms of views per day, by far since I started reviewing on this channel. So thank you for all the interest and support on that video. But one thing I did notice that I definitely left out in my full review, a huge concern that is definitely the number one thing on people's mind when considering buying this laptop is addressing that issue of the screen flex. All right guys, so check this out. I've got the HP Omen 15 here in front of me on the table, and basically I'm going to be taking it through some various test cases here, placing some objects and doing things to it I think you'll do on a normal day-to-day average use. And here we can see placing a charger on top of the laptop. Very common, I think, for a lot of people. Definitely seeing absolutely no flex, pretty much regardless of whether you put it near the middle of the laptop or towards the edge like you see here. Putting it down, one-handed, now there you could see more bending for sure. Holding it one-handed from one side. This is going to be a trend pretty much you're going to see throughout this video. Yeah, right there. Ooh, okay. So there is a good amount of flex when you're putting all of the laptop's weight centralized, focused on one point, just right there where my finger is in contact. We have the entire weight of the chassis on a single point. So that's what I want really, my viewers to pay attention to is, the types of force that's being put on this laptop. And then let's see, I'm picking it up. And you see there wasn't really any flex there. Now here's the next test. This generally isn't something that I do, but I thought I would show it just because, I figure there might be some people out there that do it. So here we're gonna see, for the student, that's going to college and has a lot of textbooks. Let's say they're just piling things on top of their laptop, and a chapter book as well on top, and the charger. So what we can see here is really, yeah, the type of force we're putting on the laptop, whether or not it's a fine point of focused pressure in one spot, or whether it's a flat, dispersed amount of force along the entire chassis like we see here, where, they're textbooks, they're books. We're pretty much seeing no flex here. We're not really seeing any flex at all. The only thing I can see is maybe there's a slight bit of flexing here, along the back. We can see that along this side of the hinge here, it looks a little bit taller than this side. So it is some very minor flexing there as well. But, this is a lot of weight, to be honest, at this point. Normally, again, I wouldn't do this. I just illustrated it to show, this is what, this is how it will fare if you're stacking your entire course load on top of the laptop. Okay, and let's place it more towards the edge of the chassis. Let's say you're just, you're all about, you're not about symmetry. You put it all towards one side, and here the books along the side of the chassis. We can see still the flex is very negligible here. It's a little bit closer. It's definitely hugging the chassis a little bit more now that we have these towards the edge, but it's really not that much. Okay, let's say you're really frigged up and you put a chapter book underneath all the bigger textbooks, so we can see a little bit more of a finite pressure point here. And even here with the chapter book instead, we're seeing pretty much about the same amount of flex. All right, and let's get into the bag test here. Let's see how this laptop fares loaded into a backpack, carrying all of your books and your course load, everything you might need going to college or into the office, just carrying some miscellaneous notebooks or whatever you're carrying and using in your bag. Let's say, yeah, you have your backpack reasonably loaded, okay, I was really freaking struggling there a little bit. But yeah, let's say you got everything in your bag, fully loaded here. This is the kind of flex you can see here. And again, just the way it is, because they are books, pay attention. I do have the charger on top of the textbooks. I'm not loading the charger, which is a very narrow, narrow, hard plastic. I definitely wouldn't want to have my charger directly here on top of the on top of the laptop lid. I wouldn't want to have the charger be underneath all the textbooks in this upper, upper pocket here. But the way I have this, where it's book, it's laptop, then I have books, and then I have the charger on top. Totally fine. Even here, you see I'm applying more pressure, weight on top, and we still didn't see that much flex, in my opinion. Check this out. I'm pushing down, reasonably hard. Not much flex at all again. So really, almost it doesn't matter how much pressure. It's just that kind of that rule still applies. If it's evenly dispersed across the chassis, then you're fine. All right, so after spending so much time looking at the laptop lying flat, with the backpack flat on a table, I wanted to look at some test cases, having the backpack standing up, where the laptop would be on its side. So placing the laptop, you might have it against the side of your desk like this, for example. And, as you can see, it's excellent. Basically, when we have the laptop side loaded like this in the bag, there's really no risk at all. Now, let's see here. I'm going to take the laptop out of the bag one-handed. And what we can see is, yes, we do get the full effect, unfortunately, from this flexing when picking up this laptop one-handed with, squeezing and applying good amount of pressure and force here. Unfortunately, here we are able to see some pretty impressive flexing here in the chassis. So definitely what we can see is, yes, it is definitely flexing here, taking it out of the bag sideways here with one hand, which... unfortunately, this is a very common use case. Probably this is honestly the way that I would most likely be taking a laptop out of the bag. I've always taken laptops out of bags one-handed. But then you know what? What we have to look at here, what we have to analyze is the amount of maximum flex that we're seeing. We need to try to make this, diagnosis, this assessment. Do we think it's flexing enough? Where over time, it flexes this amount, will the laptop become warped? Will it become, bent a little bit? Will it not return and be all the way flat? That's what we have to be really thinking about, whether or not we think this is enough flex to actually, change the form of the screen over time. And, just looking at it here, really, guys, honestly, I don't think it's enough. When you look at the amount of travel, like the centimeters there, it's just for the overall, the size of this lid, how, wide it is. I mean, this might be a totally off base, inaccurate, type of comparison, here, but it's like, bridges, for example, bridges. Let's say, a bridge was totally rigid and it wasn't able to flex. I mean, how do we think that bridge would do? Okay. I think I've seen some videos. If you look at some, famous bridges during some earthquakes, I mean, they end up actually they end up following like the waves of like the actual shock, from the actual force. And, that's why they're able to survive that type of force and that shaking and that flexing. If they were rigid, they just would not be able to handle it whatsoever. So, really, that's kind of the point I want to drive home. I think it's okay that we're getting a little bit of flex here. Would I prefer it just to be totally flat? Maybe. I don't really see a whole lot of reason in terms of utility, except for, one thing I mentioned in my unboxing was I thought maybe this would keep the keys, from coming into contact with our screen. I've had a lot of, laptops in the past where, the keyboards would leave imprints on the screen of the key shapes, all these little squares across the screen. That drove me mad. I'd always have to be wiping that freaking screen down. So maybe that's one possibility here, or maybe it's ergonomics, maybe having the keys slightly recessed so your hands aren't really angled upwards as much. Maybe that helps so you feel a little bit more ergonomic for longer typing sessions. That, I really did have a great experience typing on this laptop. So all things to consider. All right, and some more one-handed tests here, taking the laptop in and out of the bag one-handed. And as we can see here, definitely if we pick up on this side, there's absolutely no flex. And again, here, basically what we're seeing is flex along the entire back of the chassis. And yeah, there's even a little bit of good amount of flex here, not when I was pressing on the actual hinge itself, but next to the hinge. So we are seeing some, flex here too along the back. But again, if you look at the amount of centimeters of travel, I'm not too worried about it. And what I think is this type of force, when I'm pushing with one finger, this is not going to be something that you're seeing every day in your average use case. Most of the time it's going to be in a bag, and the average force on it will be, from like those flat textbooks that we saw. Force like this on fine points, if anything, they're just when taking the laptop in and out of the bag. So, would I want to have pressure like this, fine point, on one spot all day or for like a whole week? No, absolutely not. I wouldn't want pressure staying on one point of this laptop a long time. Lastly, guys, I just wanted to show some best practices here. Taking care of your laptop, that's how you want to be placing a bag down. You want to be placing it gently down, the thing is, guys, these are over $1,000 devices. So you got to treat them with the respect and the care that their price tag demands, in my opinion. That's kind of where I think, you know, you'll be okay with this laptop. Let's take a look at some ways we don't want to handle a laptop. Okay, see, guys, if you throw down your bag like this, you know, if you're the kind of person, you treat your laptop like this. Okay, then you probably don't want to buy the HP Omen 15. If you're worried about screen flex, you know, all I can say is if you're handling your laptop, you know, like this, then screen flex is the least of your problems. So, you know, that's hopefully I can drive a decent point home here. So that about does it for our testing of the HP Omen 15 today. I hope this video gave you a good idea of, you know, the types of test cases where the HP Omen 15 will flex and won't flex. So if you're the kind of user where you want this laptop and you want to be careful to avoid this, you know, then at least you know the ways to handle this laptop to avoid, you know, that flex happening. You know, as someone who's worked in QA and you know, with software, and as a, you know, extensive user for at least these products, I can say that personally, I am not concerned about this flex. I don't think we have the next Bendgate. I don't think we have, you know, Warpgate or something, some kind of scandal here, you know, when you're getting a $1,000 garbage laptop. No, I don't think that's the case. You know, take that from me for what it is. I am not concerned about this. So I'm going to daily drive and long-term use this laptop. I'll definitely be the first to report, you know, to my community and make a video on it and, you know, try to bring some light onto it for sure. I will not stay silent about it. All right, so I hope this video helped you out. If you're considering buying the HP Omen 15, please drop a like if it helped you out. Subscribe if you want to see more. Definitely follow me on Twitch. That's one of the best places besides my Discord server to hit me up, and I stream there multiple days a week, so definitely that's a place I love to hang out and answer questions. Pretty much every stream we're gaming, and you know, it's pretty much an AMA at all times. I'm willing to answer anything pretty much every stream, so just drop some questions, you know, maybe just looking for a recommendation. You know, I'm always there, I'm always happy to help. So thanks again for watching. Top ordered about.